I don't think race matters.
It doesn't matter what skin colour you are.
It's who you are as a person.
Today, most of us know racism is wrong.
We don't think any higher of ourselves because of how we look.
But is it possible we could all be racist without knowing it?
Unconscious racial bias means that sometimes we behave in ways that are discriminatory racially towards others without even realising that we're doing it.
Now, one school is about to try a groundbreaking new initiative.
I'd like you to sort yourselves based on skin colour.
To see if hidden racial bias can be reduced.
If you're white, you're going to come with me.
God, this is nerve-wracking.
I'm scared.
The kids will be tested.
This is the most fun racist game I've ever played.
And the results revealed.
The majority of the class showed an unconscious bias towards white people.
That was really outrageous.
I know that they say not to feel bad about it, but you still feel bad about it.
But can hidden racial bias be reversed?
We're gonna let everything rip. Wakanda forever!
You're separating out for a little bit with the purpose of coming back together.
I just thought this is the only way to be pretty is to be white.
Have you ever thought what it means to be white?
It doesn't really mean anything to be white.
Can't deal with always being put down or someone always saying something mean to you.
If you don't educate them in these issues, you'll never have a fully inclusive society further down the line.
It's been the most emotionally challenging thing I've ever done.
1, 2, 3, 7!
Glenthorne High School in South London.
I was stressing out about that test.
A high-performing multicultural state secondary school where just under half the pupils are black or from an ethnic minority background and the rest are white.
I think we've got really good relationships between the ethnic groups in the school.
I think it wouldn't make a difference whether I was white or not.
I don't think, like, being a certain race comes with, like, perks.
I think we're all just like normal, we're all equal to each other. Just because we're a different skin colour there's nothing different about us except the colour.
But could these pupils have prejudices they're not aware of?
The approach to race in this country has generally been one of colourblindness. We pretend that we don't see race and that racial differences don't matter. That approach isn't working.
Dr. Nicola Rollock and Professor Rhiannon Turner, experts in unconscious racial bias, are joining the school.
So unconscious bias is the idea that we would make decisions or judgments, often without thinking about different groups. So we could say, well, do you know what, I'm not racist. But actually our actions or our decision-making might contradict what comes out of our mouths.
A class of 11-year-olds in their first year at secondary school have volunteered to take part in a 3-week program designed to reduce racial bias.
Let's go in.
This is the first time a program of its kind has been trialled in the UK school. If successful, the school's ambition is to build it into the curriculum.
We're not only responsible for exam results. Education in its wider sense is educating so that we have a fully integrated society.
Pass them down.
One each, yeah.
What are we doing?
The first task, to measure these students' bias.
When you see the word or the image or whatever it is, you have to answer straight away.
This test was developed by a group of researchers at Harvard University.
It is now widely accepted as an accurate benchmark of unconscious racial bias.
They're all quite excited, as are we.
I'm excited.
3, 2, 1, off you go.
The test starts by measuring how quickly the children can associate positive words with white faces and negative words with ethnic minority faces.
You can't just put them into 2 groups. Yeah, because they're like race. What? No, she looks like me.
It's Farah that seems to be having a particularly strong emotional reaction to having to do this.
You can't just put someone into two groups. I love how we're still here if I'm not being too slow.
My skin colour's a mix. I mean, like, my dad and my mum usually say it's kind of just olive-coloured, I guess. I mean, I don't really think about that, to be honest. I mean, like, even though I look different to white people or black people, I don't really think of it as a way of me being different.
Why did it come up with a black person and then come up with, like, a mean word? That's not nice.
You know, on the face of it, it's being asked to sort good and bad and different ethnic groups. It's a confronting thing to have to do, isn't it? And none of them want to come across as being racist, but you can't control it. And that's the whole point, that it's a measure of unconscious bias.
Okay, sir, this thing was being racist to white people now.
Halfway through, the test changes and asks the kids to match negative words with white faces and positive words with ethnic minority faces.
So it's swapped it. It's completely switched sides now.
This is the most fun racist game I've ever played. Yes, I've done it.
If you've finished the test, just put the iPad just in front of you. We're just gonna have a little conversation now. I wanna hear from you about the test and what your thoughts are. Jess?
I just think I struggle with it because it says your results have been sent and collected. I thought that they would, like, come for me and... But
who's going to come for you, Jess?
I don't know, like the police.
The police?
Yeah, be knocking on my door.
All right, OK, so... Shh.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Henry?
Personally, I don't think that there was too much of a problem. People overthink it, I think.
Who agrees with Henry?
I don't think much about race. I think it means more to other people, and it's just not something I would normally discuss, because that's not something that really people talk about.
Farah, you weren't comfortable with the game, were you?
No.
You struggled?
Yeah.
OK.
I think when it said, make sure to put the negative words in with people who are white and the good words with people who are black, I found it a bit harder.
Why?
I don't know.
This is
Farah again. Farah is...
So we have to keep an eye on her.
Yeah.
She seems really emotionally invested in it.
She does.
She? So there's so many conflicting points here, isn't there? But you can tell they want to come across fairly.
Yeah.
Break time.
Put your chair in.
The results will be revealed when the kids come back to class. There are very good reasons to challenge racial bias at such a young age.
Research shows that for 11-year-olds, making friends from different racial groups is easy. But we know that as children get older, it's a different story. They start to become more aware of ethnic differences, and this starts to result in a process of self-segregation, when children split off into different friendship groups on the basis of their ethnicity. Intervening at this age is crucial if we're to target and change children's attitudes before they become crystallised in adulthood.
The teachers have the results of the test.
We feel as nervous as I think Mr. Grant probably feels.
OK. The results showed that you have an unconscious bias, and the majority of the class showed an unconscious bias towards white people.
18 out of 24 showed a significant preference for white people. 2 showed a black preference. And only 4 had neutral or no bias.
There's a lot of reflection. Henry's shocked.
While these results might seem shocking, it's actually exactly what we would expect to find in a majority white country like the UK.
Who wants to share what they straight away thought?
We usually think of a white person with better connotations. We don't necessarily think that black people have bad connotations. It's just we find it easier to have good connotations with white people. I don't really know if that makes sense.
It does make sense, Farah. Mackay?
Just try not to play on my mind too much and try to think that I'm not in there all by myself. Everybody else is in the same situation as me. They really wanted it to be equal, but it wasn't. For me, it's never gonna go. I feel like it'll always be there. People always get treated differently because of their race.
We are exposed from an early age to white people in positions of power, white heroes and heroines. All of these influences tell us that white people are better than black and minority ethnic people in society.
Over the next 3 weeks, these kids will embark on a program designed to reduce unconscious bias. They'll be tested again at the end to see if anything has changed.
If we don't tackle these kinds of biases at an early age, children like these could potentially grow up and demonstrate these biases in their everyday life and in their areas of employment.
I was thinking, oh, maybe we can beat this, but obviously not, and that was a little bit disappointing.
I never knew this about myself, that maybe I prefer Caucasian people more than another race, but I never had any idea.
I know that they say not to feel bad about it, but you still feel bad about it because you know that you've done something wrong.
Glenthorne High School. A class of 24 11 and 12-year-olds have taken an unconscious racial bias test, which revealed they have a significant preference for white people. To see if this bias can be reduced, the students will take part in a groundbreaking 3-week program from America.
Many parents support the idea, but others call it segregation.
Mariama was one of those responsible for this US program, which involves separating the kids by race into affinity groups.
Students can talk about concerns they may not feel comfortable talking openly about in front of people of other races.
And now, she's in the UK to help introduce it to Glenthorne High School.
What I want to do is introduce Mariama over here. Say hello to Mariama, please, everybody.
Hi. I flew in this morning from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
I love that.
I heard that when there was an announcement about the fact there were affinity groups, there's some people that were a little nervous. My job is to actually run affinity groups with other groups of students, including students of your same age in the United States, right? I love affinity groups. I think we get more pushback when we start younger with students because people believe that at that point in time in their lives, they are colorblind, right? That they don't see people in a bad way because of their race, and that we should just let them be. And unfortunately, we just know that's not the case.
Colorblindness is the ideology that emerged alongside the civil rights movement in the US. Supporters believed that the best way to end racism was to ignore the issue of race. But now many experts argue colorblindness is itself a form of racism.
The fundamental problem with the colourblind approach is that it says, well, Nicola, as a woman of colour, I'm going to pretend that I don't see the colour of your skin. And by doing that, you're also erasing my experiences as a woman of colour. You're erasing my history. You're erasing the fact that I experience racism. So a colourblind approach isn't healthy at all.
You're separating out for a little bit with the purpose of coming back together. You got me? Yeah. Right? We're going to rock this out. All right.
The teachers have all been trained to run affinity groups.
This is how we're going to do it. Outside, the people who associate themselves as a white person from a white ethnic background. In this room is going to be people who associate themselves as black or Middle Eastern or Asian, and you're going to remain in this room.
The idea is to create a space for different races to discuss their experiences without fear of judgment.
God, that's nerve-wracking.
Before coming back together to air issues and problems which wouldn't ordinarily come out.
Okay? I'm going to be outside.
Your choice. You get the choose. You get the choose. Stand in between the.
Wait, where do I go? Do I stay here or go out there? I'm used to being around people who are like white.
Look at Farah. I wonder what decision she'll make.
I'm half white and half Asian, and like, I didn't know which room to go in.
You're in our room, okay?
Yeah, but I'm sorry. You stay here. With us. Okay, you stay here. You belong here with us.
This is all about identity, isn't it? We're all thinking about what who we are and what we look like. So how do you like to be described? Henry?
I think I would just call myself a ginger European boy, and there's nothing really more to it.
Okay, we all associate ourselves with being white people, okay? Have you ever thought what it means to be white?
Doesn't really mean anything to be white. We're equal. Just because of the colour of our skin, it doesn't mean that we're any different.
Their reflections around race are, well, we're all basically the same. It's just a different skin colour. But for them, that's how it feels, because they're not affected by systemic inequalities in the same way.
Yeah.
I love being described as black because that's what I am. And my grandfather's whatever. I bet you he was black.
I've got like Caribbean and island to me, so I am a mixture. Farah.
I don't want to be described as my race.
Okay.
I want to be described as like my personality and who I am.
Sarah?
Because some people may look at me and think I'm just a black person, but when I make it clear, I'm an Afro-Caribbean girl. If you want to know me as like a Pacific colour, I'm not really afraid to call me black. I'm not really like black, I'm like a milk chocolate, but still. like,
Does anyone else have another opinion or thoughts about that?
The contrast between the two rooms is phenomenal. This one's a bit like a carnival, there's a lot of energy, and this group with the white pupils, it feels very much like a funeral.
Aaron, did you have anything to say?
No.
No?
Listening to their group, when you can hear their group, it sounds like they're enjoying it a lot, but I don't know whether that's because we're not there or I don't know.
Henry's point there about, well, they seem to be enjoying themselves, is that maybe because we're not there? This is not something that white people usually experience, being the outsiders, being the ones that are excluded. This is a new experience and it's quite an uncomfortable one.
It was hard work. I feel like it's never really discussed. You never really talk about kind of what it means to be white with white people, especially Year 7 students.
5, 6, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. Lead with it, dare with it, hit the front and stand with it. Then they ready rock, then I hit that money ride with it.
Wow! I have a headache, but I felt so privileged. Okay. I felt so privileged to be in the room with them to discuss these things.
After being separated by race, the two groups are coming back together.
So I want to thank you for participating this evening. This was your first time. I know it was a little nerve-wracking. What could you expect? What do you think might be communicated? My hope is that you're going to continue to ask the right questions and get to a really good place to have better conversations with one another over the course of the next few weeks.
Okay, so just feedback on how that felt.
I feel like it's a lot easier. I feel like we can express ourselves a bit more. And I feel like it's good for us to talk about it and how we feel.
Before you were more cautious of what you're saying because you didn't really want to hurt someone make them feel upset. And now in this group we're more open, really.
Somebody from my affinity group, would you like to share anything about what you want this affinity group to know, Lauren?
Well, we want like this affinity group to know that we don't think any higher of ourselves because of how we look. We don't think that we're better than anyone, so yeah.
Henry?
Well, I did feel a bit jealous because
It's okay.
This process is hard, but I think they kind of need to have these conversations kind of to come through and out the other side.
Yeah.
Henry lives at home with dad, Kevin, a gymnastics coach, and mum, Sarah, a trading standards officer.
What have you been up to, Henry?
So I had an affinity group today, and it was groups where you had to go into your race. And what we were talking about is what it means to be white, and it felt really weird. And
why did it feel weird?
I didn't feel comfortable talking.
Okay. Why is that?
I don't know. If I had the choice, I would be with my friends, not just by race, because that feels awful.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
It's all right. That's okay.
Since the start of my life, I've always been told that your race doesn't really matter. It's who you are as a person.
For Farah, who lives with stay-at-home mum Catherine and dad Michael, a lawyer, the day brought up different challenges.
In the affinity groups, I wasn't quite sure where to go.
You're a mix of both, aren't you? So
yeah, I went in the ethnic minority affinity group because I am part of that. Because even though I am half white and half Sri Lankan, I can't feel comfortable in a room full of white people because I know that I look different.
when she was quite little, she used to say she didn't want to be brown, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
She has been dealing with quite a lot recently about her own identity, about who she is, and I think she has been finding that quite confusing.
But it's never something that perhaps we explicitly sat down and said, right, this is the way you deal with things, or your racial identity.
Oh, you got Rome?
Yeah.
No, that's not Rome.
Oh.
You can't do the word backwards.
Can.
No.
Mackay's experience of the affinity group is something he's happy to share with his mum, Natalie, a social worker.
So are you going to tell me about your day?
We had a good time talking to people from other ethnic minorities or black.
Yeah. Go on.
We just talked and we understood each other. I feel like I'm very lucky, in my opinion, not to experience as much as some people would.
So do you think you have actually experienced that? Because I would be upset to think that you have. Do you think you've ever been in a situation where you've experienced that? I would hope that you haven't.
Yep.
You have? Tell me what you're talking about then.
I don't want to say mine.
Okay, all right.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, I have. I was in the shop. Me and my friends were getting some sweets. And then, I don't know, me and my friends were laughing and one of my friends shouted. And the man, he could see that I wasn't shouting and he could see my friend shouting. He kicked me out of the shop. And I was thinking, why? I didn't do anything. I just kind of froze outside. And I just thought, that's not fair. And yeah, it wasn't the nicest time that I've had. Sorry, I'm crying. And I didn't really didn't really know what to do after that situation.
This morning, everyone has been asked to bring in objects that reflect their own cultural background.
It's about recognising that there's plenty of variation within any individual group, that not all black people are the same, not all Asian people are the same, and not all white people are the same.
Everyone listening? So one person's going to come and talk about those things that they've brought in. Show and tell style.
How would you describe your own racial identity?
I'm kind of stuck on that question.
My mum's Jamaican, dad's Nigerian, and I was born in Britain.
I'm white, and I'm English, and I don't have a religion.
If you're not proud of where you're from, you're almost not proud of yourself as a person.
If you don't understand your own group and your own identity, how can you possibly hope to try and understand the other group?
On my dad's side, that's Nigerian. We have a Nigerian cultural dress. We'll wear it for traditions, churches, or just in general.
So this is a prayer mat. This is what Muslims pray on, handmade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
This bracelet ring shows people that I am South African and I'm proud of it.
It's a certificate. So I used to go to Japanese school every Saturday morning and I graduated.
For the black and minority ethnic students, talking about their cultural background has been easy. But how will the white students fare?
Okay, so Sir Robert Peel almost started the Metropolitan Police, and he's one of my ancestors.
This is an England flag because obviously I'm from England and I support England when it's the World Cup.
We don't often think about white people as having an identity and culture, but it's partly because also we don't talk about it.
I think a lot of white people are sensitive to, if they're celebrating their white identity, they're saying that their identity is better. And there's already kind of enough of that in society.
Do you think
that being
so?
the dominant, yeah.
That's really
I do.
interesting.
When I see that, I think of like the National Front or British National Party. And I think celebrating your white identity can be perceived as being, well, actually, I'm racist.
This magnet, and it shows my mum's side of the family because it's Scottish, and then Bible shows my belief in God.
Good.
All right.
All right. I want to just reflect on this for a minute now. Who found that quite difficult?
I wanted to be from like more countries like where they're from, because like when everyone was looking in their bags, they had like all these really nice dresses and like food originating from their country, and all I had a flag, another flag, and a book.
Anybody else wish they had a different kind of ethnic or cultural background?
From when I was really, really young, I always kind of wanted to be like that American girl with long hair and that kind of stuff, and one with the nice jeans and everything like that. So, yeah.
I used to look at like the magazines, and I was just like all white, beautiful white women at the front of the covers, and everyone was white. And I just thought, I'm not pretty. I just thought this is the only way to be pretty is to be white.
That's interesting.
Oh, she looks on the verge of tears.
I want to go in and hug them.
24 young volunteers are taking part in a trial program to see if their unconscious racial bias can be eliminated.
Come on, hurry up, let's go through.
Part of it involves regular meetings in their racial groups.
So if you're white, you're going to come with me, and if you are a person of colour, you're going to stay in this room, and we're going to ask you some different questions to what we did last time. Let's go.
Bye.
But some of the kids aren't looking forward to this element of the program.
I think we should not have affinity groups. Nearly every single person in our room said they felt less comfortable in affinity group than in the whole group.
So why do we think race is such a difficult thing to discuss?
Maybe because you might, for example, if there's a different other skin colour in the room, maybe they might get offended and you might be scared of that.
Breaking down this fear of speaking openly is one of the key aims of the Affinity Groups.
If we say something that they think might be racist, like might be asking a simple question, but they might be like, whoa, it's just...
As if it may happen by mistake.
Yeah.
They're feeling a bit of, maybe a little bit threatened.
I think about how it's going to affect me in the future.
Okay, in what sense?
But because, of course, if I say something bad early in life, it could come back later in life.
Yeah.
With our year, things spread really fast. And so, for example, if I offend somebody, that's a different race to me, it will spread across the entire year and I'll be called a bully and a racist. I think that would be quite hard for me to know that people will believe that I'm a racist when I'm not.
Yeah.
In the black and minority ethnic group, it's a different issue that's being tackled.
Okay, we're going to go right into it, and we're going to talk about the close of our last session. We got asked the question, have you ever wanted to be a different race or ethnicity? Okay, and a few of the students said that they had thought about it. What are your concerns about being your identity?
You might feel like you might be the odd one out just because of like your skin colour or what you believe in.
Good, Farah.
If you try to fit in, people are going to think, people are going to think that you're not being yourself and they're going to be like, oh, what are you doing? You can't be like us. But then if you be different, people are going to pick on you saying, oh, why are you so different? You shouldn't be different. You should be like us. So sometimes I feel like you just cannot win.
It may get really irritating that you're always being put down or someone always saying something mean to you.
I'm kind of guessing everyone here, it's kind of been brushed upon, so they're kind of comfortable with this subject, but everyone in the other group doesn't really talk about it, hasn't really had to talk about it as much, therefore it doesn't make them as comfortable.
When we meet back again, and we're all together, all of 7X are all together again, what would we want them to know about what we've discussed in our affinity group?
What are the things we feel like we want the other group to know about what we talked about here, and we think it might help us continue to build relationship, right? What are some things that would be really important to hear?
You don't need to prove to me that you're not racist, you just need to act normal and don't say anything racist.
Okay, so it looks like we've got a few things we want to share with the other group. Does everybody feel comfortable with the things that they have to say? Yeah. All right, wonderful.
Having finally opened up separately, will the two groups be brave enough to share?
We're gonna have a quick conversation.
I'm scared.
All right, why don't we start here?
It's always the white person being racist. And sometimes I feel like I don't want to say something because the second we say something or someone gets offended by something we said, we'll get called racist. If, say, for example, if you're just not friends with someone that is a different race to you, we're automatically called racist.
You shouldn't be friends with someone, let's say of colour, just because you don't want to be racist. But also, you shouldn't be too free around them because we don't want you to overdo it. So oh, I love the way you look, I love your skin, I'm not racist. I would never be racist to you, I'm never gonna ask you about your ethnicity. Then we're just gonna think you're weird.
You know, you said that you'd rather not speak about the ethnicity. But so would it be wrong just to ask them?
No, I think that just ask in a respectful way, not so you don't obviously, but ask in a respectful way so it doesn't seem like you're being patronising or making fun of them. Sometimes, people could take it the wrong way if people are over-asking and almost over-excited about it because they'll just think, I get you want to know about my race, but calm down.
This is great because we're actually seeing them asking each other the questions that they possibly always wanted to ask but have felt quite anxious about.
But wouldn't it be sometimes interesting, like other people would want to share their ethnicity and they want to express where they come from because they're proud and not saying that you're not proud, but saying and they want people to know.
Depending on the person, you kind of have to know. Some people really don't want to talk about where they're from because maybe they're not proud of it. And some people, like I know I am, I'm really proud of where I'm from, and I tell everyone about it because I like to. So I think it's good to ask. It's just that if you're going to ask, make sure they're comfortable with you asking.
Thank you, everybody. Good job. Excellent job.
What was beautiful about it was that you guys started to have a conversation. It wasn't mediated by me or Miss. It was you saying, actually, can I ask you about this? And that's so beautiful to have that conversation. We're very proud of you.
Yes, very. Yes.
I'm becoming friends with like people who are maybe black or Indian. Before this, I was just being friends with people who are white. I don't think I really realised it, but I feel like I was kind of led towards people who are white.
I'll see you tomorrow, I guess. Period 1.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I felt a little bit more confident as I could go speak my word a bit more. I felt very proud speaking, as I don't normally get to speak to other people about race.
I've learned that race, it's actually a bigger issue than I thought it was. And it's not talked about enough.
Quite often the UK likes to pride itself as having really rich equalities legislation, but yet we still see inequalities by ethnic group.
Ethnic minorities make up 14% of the British population. But they account for only 2% of company directors and just 8% of MPs. Yet over 25% of people in prison are black.
And this pervades every aspect of British society, including education, housing, employment, the criminal justice system, and so on.
Good morning.
The class are now 1 week into their course. As well as specially created classes, some of their existing lessons have also been modified to improve their awareness of racial issues. This morning, it's biology.
Right. Why do we all appear so different, and what causes those differences? Who can tell me what genes are?
Aren't they like what you get passed down from your parents? So characteristics of...
But also, does anyone know what they're made up of?
Like DNA.
DNA. And where do we find DNA? In your cells. In every cell with a nucleus, there is DNA, which is your genes. And that helps us to work out what we're going to look like on the outside. Now, you're going to make prediction. On average, what percentage of our DNA is similar to another human's genetics? OK, so I want you to write a percentage. OK, line up along the back with the lowest percentage prediction over here, the highest percentage predictions over there, and get yourselves into order of where you think it is.
Mr. Jackie.
10.25. This is lower.
Move up 5. 5%, 10.5.
OK, so right at the far ends for me, what percentage do you think your DNA is similar to another human's?
5.
5%. So you think 5% of your DNA is similar to somebody else's. Going up around about halfway, what about here? What are we saying here?
I put 20.
20, so we've got 20. What about here? What have we got? 50 to 40. OK, well, I can reveal that your DNA is 99.9% similar to the person next door to you. Actually, your DNA is only 0.1% different from somebody else's. So we're all really similar.
We all have hair. We all have a body.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really surprised about that.
That was really outrageous, really. I never really thought about me being the same as so many people.
99.9% of DNA we all share. It's kind of cool.
It makes it feel kind of weird, like basically all of us are like related, like distant relatives.
But does that mean Donald Trump's my brother. Does it actually?
Although they may be biologically similar, how does society see their skin colour?
We are going to be running a race. However, your starting position in this race will be decided by the answers to questions that we are going to be asking you.
Sorry, what?
It's a joke.
This activity is intended to explore how society favours one race over others.
People often confuse white privilege with being wealthy or being rich, and it isn't about that. What it's about is the absence of having to live with the consequences of racism.
Now, if the question applies to you, you will take a big step forward. If the answer to the question doesn't apply to you, you stay where you are.
I better win, man. Oh.
Okay, make sure you're on the start line. I see some cheaters already.
Yeah, bother.
Feet behind the line.
If English is your parents' first language, take a step forward.
Oh, yeah.
If you have ever been the only person in the room of your race, take a step backwards.
For God's sake!
If you've never been asked where you come from, take a step forward.
If you have never had to be worried about your family being stopped and searched, take a step forward.
I don't get worried about if people ask me to stop and search.
The divide widens, and the inequality of their position becomes clear.
This is just like not fair now.
Farah, none of us are white. None of us are white. It's unfair.
The last question. If your parents have ever warned you about racism, take a step backwards.
If we were about to start a race, is this a fair starting point for us all? No. Mackay, how do you feel standing there in the field of runners?
I kind of feel a bit alone. I can't really see it. I'm literally just by myself, more or less. I'm just a bit frustrated and annoyed that society nowadays really isn't fair. And I just wish everybody could be equal.
Farah!
It's kind of frustrating that, like, me and Sarah are just standing at the back here while the majority of people who may be white are, like, standing right at the front. That just frustrates me a bit, because it's almost as in what society is today. I don't want this to be how it is, but it is, so it just gets a bit frustrating.
Henry, how are you feeling being right at the very front?
It feels quite weird because if you think about it, I think all of us should be at the same point, but sadly the questions, the way that they were put didn't favour some people, which I think is quite unfair.
On your marks, get set, go! There didn't seem to be, when you all finished, there wasn't this kind of mass celebration and mass, I won. Why?
It kind of felt like a really racist sports day or something. Nobody really cared that much about who they won. It was just for fun.
I enjoyed it, but part of it just didn't feel right. So we decided to run the race again.
Go behind the line, guys. Finna let me just room for the blacks, yeah? I felt a bit, like, guilty, and I didn't feel like I've done something wrong. I think that sometimes it's society.
Go! Some races are more privileged, and I feel like they take it for granted.
Everyone should try and tackle racism. Before, I was kind of scared to say the word white
or black. But now I think I can talk about it much more easily and realise that there's nothing wrong about talking about it.
Next time, the students turn their attention to the world outside the classroom.
There's not much about black history. It's literally just white. This place is dead.
They use what they've learned to challenge those closest to them.
Whenever you go into a shop, you feel like, oh, hopefully I don't get stopped today. It just gets to you.
You don't need to fear police if your conscience is clear.
I disagree. You won't get it.
And the time comes to take the unconscious bias test again.
The results showed